Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a BDS Analytics report about the top 5 insights on how cannabis is impacting the over-the-counter markets and prescription drug channels. Today on the line with us is Dan Kimmis, our CBD correspondent with Good CBD Products. So the article goes on to say that as more U.S. states are moving towards legalization, that cannabis consumers are taking advantage of the unique opportunities to address medical concerns. That definitely goes in line what we've seen normally, that a lot of patients are out there looking for medicinal ailments, using cannabis not necessarily as recreation, but also for medical. And that 64% of adults believe cannabis has medicinal benefits, and that medical cannabis spending is $12.3 billion estimate over the next 3 years. That cannabis fulfills common over-the-counter or prescription needs, and it's replacing over-the-counter uses. So the dispensary channel is a direct competitor to traditional retail and pharmaceutical companies. And that pretty much wraps up the top 5 insights. So let's just kind of dive into these one by one and look at how 64% of U.S. adults believe that cannabis has medicinal benefits, and that 51% of consumers in legal states consider cannabis to be medicine.
You know, Chronic, it's funny, the field research, right? So out in the field. So yesterday, literally talking to some bud tenders about, okay, talk to me about common questions. And again, you know, when Washington first went legal, those questions were, hey, which one's going to get me the highest, right? Today, a lot of those questions are things like, you know, will this help my back pain? Hey, I'm having trouble sleeping. Gosh, I feel anxious. Again, those customers that used to be standing in those pharmacy lines, I think a lot of them are in our cannabis stores, brother.
Absolutely. So adult use spending overall, largely driven by the health and wellness needs, is going to grow to $19 billion. So coupling that with fulfilling the medical market, that's pain and anxiety and sleep disorders among the top 5 reasons for cannabis consumption. I think low back pain is probably a huge component, as most people have that, whether that's inflammation from what they're eating or just stress or a combination of all of those things. Cannabis definitely seems to be one of those things that can help. I really like a 1-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC. I feel like that has some coffee euphoric, energetic, uplifting effects without being too groggy. So keeping that sativa-esque daytime effect coupled with some CBD has a nice overall, uplifting effect for me at least.
Yeah, you know, this is when the big qualifier that I keep running into as well is, you know, different people, different things. And again, you know, quality of life, right? A little less pain go a long way.
Absolutely. And we're already seeing that as cannabis is replacing over-the-counter drug uses and prescription painkillers, opioids, for example. And so it leaves a pretty good opportunity. If we had a cannabis cafe and we were able to prove, or at least provide an opportunity to prove that cannabis can help opioid users get off of that. You know, for example, a super chronic cafe that has nurses on board and is able to take heroin addicts and convert them off of opioids and heroin using cannabis to wean them off of drugs completely is definitely an opportunity. Whereas, you know, San Francisco and Washington, Seattle specifically, want to implement a heroin safe injection site. So it's kind of ironic that there's a felony on operating and maintaining a cannabis cafe. And I'm not advocating for social use. I think it's a waste of $100,000 a month in taxpayer money. We definitely need some education. We need some opportunities. But nonetheless, what we are seeing is that cannabis is replacing a lot of opioids, a lot of over-the-counter. So across the U.S., 41% report a reduction in their use of over-the-counter prescription medications as a result of alternative cannabis product use. And not surprisingly, the 41% reduction is consistent across the U.S. and states with legal markets.
Yeah, you know, again, the opioid crisis, when you look at it, a manufactured scourge that literally pushed on people by people and ruining entire communities, a true, you know, American crisis, the solution sitting right in front of you, and, you know, the stigma of cannabis. It's very, you know, how things are versus how they ought to be, Chronic. Very confusing some days.
And it'll be normal just like any other distribution channel, which is the fifth point, that dispensary channels are a competitor to traditional retailers and pharmaceutical companies. And yet I kind of see them all working together in unison. They believe that replacing traditional over-the-counter and RX products with cannabis means that there's fewer trips to drugstores and pharmacy retailers. Cannabis can be less expensive than prescription-free options, but it's still the same thing as grabbing, a Bengay or a topical or a patch to put on you for heat or soothing. And all of those things work. And whether your medicine is in the form of a flower or a pill, they're just going to switch from one form to another. So I think, with GW Pharma creating Epidiolex, it's just replacing pharmaceutical needs with more of a holistic approach. Although that seems to be a GMO, Epidiolex, I'm not really sure about that. If it's anything like Marinol, it's probably not good. But nonetheless, the retailers and distribution channels that we're seeing from e-commerce are just becoming more normalized. World Trade Center has an e-commerce store with CBD options to be able to sell that across the country. So as CBD becomes legalized worldwide, that provides more of an opportunity to people to sell their products, not just interstate, across borders, domestically and internationally. And then CBG is going to be the next big thing. I'm already seeing, gallons of that on LinkedIn every day. So CBG is out there. You're going to see a lot more rare cannabinoids. So to listen to how that's going to roll out, you might want to stay tuned to the Talking Hedge. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.